Thank you for being so ready and so excited. All of you are here because you made a choice to be here. And I want to highlight the ingredients of the choice you made today. Because sometimes we make choices as if the choices make us. So you're here today, even just the fact that your body is here at this vanguard precipice called Mindvalley, where you left behind stagnant ways of the way you were and came questing for something new, something yet to be discovered, something yet unknown, a you that you haven't even seen yet. Now, you could have just continued in the comfort and stagnation of all you once were and simply continued being a puppet to all those around you, puppeteered, clay perhaps to your parents' expectations, putty to their fantasies, prey to all that they couldn't be and hoped you were. Well, that's happened already, you know that. I'm a parent and no one escapes the zealotry of our unconsciousness. So this choice you made to be here today has certain ingredients. It requires a breaking out of all that you previously manifested. And you've entered a territory of the unmanifested. And it's that unknown territory that separates those who just run with the familiar to those who run toward their greatest potential. And this is what marks you as different. You may not realize it. You may have just come here through some random cause and effect. But still, forces, both known and unknown, have arrived in this moment to create you here. And with every breath, you are actually roaring. With every decibel, you are actually declaring the mandate that antiquated ways in which you were conditioned don't seem to work anymore. And you are separating from what Kierkegaard referred to as the mass man, the man of the masses. And you are severing yourself from the cowardice of the crowds. So you have to realize what you are declaring. Because don't just enter this willy-nilly. Don't just enter this haphazard. Don't just sit here by happenstance. Own it, embody it. You are, by sitting here in this auspice of Mindvalley, entering your own personal renegade spirit. You are carving your own maverick territory. But do it with embodiment. Do it with ownership. Realize that you will pay a price. Because for every prize, there is a price. Especially the price of spiritual and emotional growth. There is a huge price. The price you will find as soon as you leave here. You will be leaving people of a different consciousness behind. You will go back and they will be unrecognizable to you, and you more so to them. And then you will be faced with another choice. Should I return into the comfort stagnation of all that I knew, to belong, to be validated by those that I left behind? Or do I look forward? But to look forward now, after you leave a place like this, hopefully, if you left embodied and engaged and anew, you would enter a desolate territory. A territory that looks akin to a no man's land, where there are no known signposts. You don't recognize this new territory. It's a new place. But you have to be willing to go here. It is this place where the hero buckles and returns. After what happens here is where you will face your most severe price. And you will have to ask yourself if you're willing to pay it. Because those of a different dimension now are no longer going to stick unless you force it because of your subservience to the old, because of your intense attachment to the way things were. So choice after choice, you will have to decide if you're going to answer the call to your greatest adventure, to follow your greatest rapture, to follow your inner bliss. Moment after moment, you will be asked to pay a price for no lesser prize than the renewal and the recognition, the intimacy and the marriage, the utter recognition of who it is you truly are. So the hero or the heroine embarks on an adventure. But unfortunately, in this dense material world that we live in, we don't realize that it is a call of the soul. We've been sold a different bag of goods. We've been told that there's a linear progression to this utopic goal post called joy and happiness. And if you pass certain prescriptive check boxes and you check them off linearly, one after the other, you will arrive at the end of the rainbow to this place called contentment. Now, all of you look pretty young to me, but if you cross over your 40s, where I am, you soon realize that those check boxes, even though you diligently marked each one, do not deliver. And you wonder, is it because you weren't pretty enough? Maybe you weren't rich enough. Maybe you weren't buffed enough. Maybe you weren't polished enough. So you try harder because you were so seduced by what your parents and culture told you, you see. They told you if you followed, you would arrive. But checkbox after checkbox after checkbox, you got the A grades, you went to the right schools, you looked the right part. You got married, and then you got married again, perhaps. Looking. You had child number 1, 2, 3, 4, waiting for your bliss to arrive. And now, many of you will soon, in a decade or so, find that that was not the way to go. Because to look outside is simply a myth. So the hero or the heroine realizes that this life is not about a linear progression to a utopic, externally driven, externally defined place called contentment. It is only to be found in an entirely different place, on an entirely different pathway, walking a completely different trajectory, away from all that you've heard, known, taught. So are you daring now to look at your life as perhaps a lie? Yeah, a lie. A lie where you were told to enter your false self from a young age, yay high. You were told by parents who themselves raised by unconsciousness, doing the best that they could, told you what they knew. Follow, here. They took it out of their pocket. They said, here's the list. And you, obedient, servile, so willing to be part of the crowd, thinking naively, surely they're not going to take me down the wrong way. Surely these are the trusted elders of my tribe. And you, even though you knew that you came here for a purpose, you knew you had a distinct calling to manifest your truth, you knew that, but then you trusted them and they fed you. So here was the split. You wanted to say to them, no, I know different. There's something within me that knows where you're taking me. Sheep to the slaughterhouse is not where I want to go. But you have no choice, you see, when you're yay high. You have to trust, and you trust, and you trust. And as you trust the unconsciousness of those who came before you and all of culture around you, you sever, you split, you decimate away from your truth, your authentic voice, your authentic spirit. This is just the way of it. I'm a clinical psychologist, trust me. I've seen it over and over. It's predictable. There's nothing unique about any of us. We all follow the same path, the same prescription, east or west. It's so ubiquitous, it's almost a comedy. Except it is a travesty, isn't it? Because it's happening to us all. Beheaded we are, bespirited we are from our truth. So now comes the moment of reckoning. Every one of us starts in the realm of the ordinary, the material realm. We come knowing, all of us forget. This is a given. Come with the destiny within, ready to burst forth. Within a few months, it is severed. Your parents, loving as they were. How many of you are parents in this room? You wait for 2 days for your child to be just the child that they're meant to be before you slap on every dream that you never could fulfill and every wish you could never desire for yourself, and everything that your parents put on you just comes out like vomit, bile. You're like, where is it coming from? It is called the power of the unconscious. And your child can barely have a gasp that they can rightly call their own before they become a mirror of all that you thought you wanted to be. So they have the barest, slightest chance. You know, you have your name prepared, you have the college application, the Ivy League college application, you know, burning in the desk right by their crib. You have everything laid out because you're a loving, caring parent. That's what we loving, caring parents do. So much so, I tell my parents, love your child a little less. Why don't you? Because the truth is that this love is the greatest noose. Here begins the attachments that the Buddhists say to start breaking. Here it begins from the unconscious realm of parent, grandparent, and ancestors beyond. That you cannot even see, but are influencing you. That you cannot even see, that are conditioning you. Your mind you think is unique, it is bending to your own will, you say. That is your audacity in your 20s, perhaps. Soon you realize all, if not the complete you and the versions of you henceforth are conditioned. So now you have to choose a way of living that is completely separate from that which is mainstream, completely divergent from everything that you were told would bring you happiness, joy, contentment, peace, rapture, bliss, your truth. So the call to adventure, you see, after being habituated in the ordinary realm of the material world, is one that everyone gets asked to answer. Each one of us gets asked to answer the call to your soul's adventure. But no one, very few, can heed the call. Because it asks for a deep digression. Almost, your family will say, a transgression, a betrayal. And then you will be left wondering, how can you go and grasp, steal back your truth? So in my work as a clinical psychologist, I help people to see how their stuckness, how their miredness in the material world, in this world we call form, has obscured their path toward the truth. It is a crisis we are undergoing right now, an individual crisis and a collective crisis. What you see outside in the political realm or the cultural realm is only a mirror of the schism within you, the schism between the true self and the false self. You see, we think that because the face of this political crisis looks so different, we think we've never seen it before. But this is the same crisis with 1,000 different faces. The crisis is one. It's the duality between truth and falsity. Just one, showing up in different faces. If you cannot penetrate this truth, you will forever be beguiled, thinking this is a new evil. And so you think you have to rouse up new emotions and discover new strategies. It's the same crisis with a different face. It's a duality between truth and falsity. It is one that you experience in your life on a daily basis. When you want to say no, but you say yes. When your child asks to be connected to, but instead you spank and punish and shame and deride. It's the same conflict in your body every day that you don't even know you're failing to answer. Am I being truthful now? Am I authentic now? Is this my honest calling now? Do I dare to subvert the authority of the outer and listen to the authority of the inner? The schism is the same. It is the duality of this dimension. If there are other dimensions, and I sure hope there are, and if each dimension has its own sacred task, I would define the task of this dimension as the integration of this duality. The duality that shows up between mind and heart, between greed and generosity, between self and other, between doing and being, between materialism and the absconsion of it. It is this integration that this dimension is asking all of us to rise to fulfill. This is the bleeding call, the bleat of this dimension's yearning. Answer the call to unify the duality between self and other. But you can only do that when you've unified the schism between the two parts of the self within, between its truth and its falsity, between its essence and its conditioned reality. It's the conditioned reality, you see, which has been borrowed from those on the outside, that you believe is your truth, that needs to be looked at, to be awakened within you, to be seen for what it is, and then to be left behind. But instead, you see, when we were yay high, we left behind on the sidewalk of our childhood our true self and nurtured and adopted the false self of the conditioning around us. And that became our reality. But it's a conditioned reality. And if you don't realize that moment by moment, that you are now embodying and manifesting a conditioned reality, which is not rooted in abundance, but instead deeply, deeply encaged in fear and scarcity. This is the conditioned reality of this dimension that we call Earth and the experience that we call a human experience. So don't be beguiled by this political party or this face of racism or this face of oppression, because the core behind that mask is the schism of a dualistic world, deeply split between mind and heart. And it is our entrance into the heart, or what I would rather call the soul, but both are really ineffable, indescribable, unassailable, inalterable qualities that we can't even touch, but we know when we live in it. We know the difference when we move from our heart, from our mind to our heart. We know it feels palpably different, but we can't explain it. There are no words. So the cry of the soul then is the cry of this dimension. And you know what the soul is. It's that deeply mellifluous, but yet daunting, soft, yet daring, the rebel within you that knows it will not abide. It will not sit still. It will not wait in line. The soul that recognizes itself when you watch the most glorious sunset. When in that moment you're just caught by awe. That's soul. That's that ineffable quality within you that is beyond conditioned reality. That for a moment sees itself and seeks resonance in the universe itself. Sees itself as a replica of the abundance in nature. That moment that when you stand at the edge of a mountain and see the ocean or see the vista, that moment of utter shock, awe, stillness, quietude, presence, that is soul. Now chase that and leave behind the conditioned reality. So the ordinary world, you see, will suck you dry. It will tell you that you need to be happy and that happiness is found on the outside and that you need to achieve and then you need to be skinny and then you need to live in a particular zip code and you need to have 5 cars and you need to have Botox and you need to have a toupee and you need to have a good looking. And the list goes on and on because it's mired, you see, in the split from abundance. In the core of that conditioning that we are all puppeteered by, all of us are puppeteered by the same conditioned reality, whose core, whose roots are in parched soil of lack and scarcity. Every decision you make, if unaware, if unawake, which is most of us, is made rooted in the parched soil of scarcity and impoverishment. It is made out of fear. All parents here know what I'm talking about. None of our decisions or wishes or caring for our children is rarely rooted in abundance. It's mostly rooted out of fear of their future. A fear because we, you see, are not grounded in our present reality of abundance. It's because we grew up with the same medicine, with the same toxicity. It wasn't medicine for the soul. It was medicine to just assuage the split. And you can't put a Band-Aid on the split. You have to go beneath the split to discover what's at the core. You have to scrutinize the fear and the lack that we've been conditioned by and uproot all that has been blossoming underneath. Uproot it all, weed it out, and begin again. Renew and awake. So the question is not whether you're willing to be awake. The fact that you're here, you are. That's not the question. The question is how willing are you to be deeply awakened. Not just awake on the surface, but deeply rooted out of the slumber of the conditioned reality of fear and lack. That's the question you have to ask yourself. Am I truly ready to excavate? Let go of all archaic and arcane and antiquated institutions that the world hides in since birth. Look at the institutions you've been in since birth. They're carefully designed, these institutions, you see, to allow for conformity, because the fear is anarchy. The fear is the rising of the individual spirit. So look how brilliantly engineered this dimension is to sever from truth. It's so precise. Parents with children as young as 2 months fall into the seduction. But Dr. Shefali, how can I not put my kid into the institution of endless hobbies when everybody else is? Or how can I not put my child into the institution of overscheduling ad nauseum? How can I not? Everybody else is. I want my kid to have a fair chance. How can I not train my child to fit in and belong and be validated by her peers? But what will happen to her? So you see how brilliantly executed, generation after generation, institution after institution, education, or maybe religion before education, and then more education, and then the marital institution, and then the monogamous institution, and then more religion, and then more, and then the institution of stopping old age, and it just goes on and on. It's one institution after another. You think you're living an individually unique, free life, but you're not. You're just stepping one to the other. Some doors you close because you're brave. Yes, you're a maverick. But whether you like it or not, the next institution is waiting for you. You have to see through the structure of this society that we have called Earth and see how it's designed to carefully constrain the masses. And if you see and penetrate the madness of this reality, then you touch liberation. But for that, your mind has to be free, you see, because these institutions now have created barricades in your own mind. They've severed your own heart and mind from each other. They have made sure the split is not integrated, because it serves a purpose, you see, when we live split lives, because then we all live in fear. And then all corporations benefit from this fear. It's the greed and the way of it. So it's up to you to decide that, you don't need to live here. You can live in a different place. So the material world, in its dense, form-based institution, rigidity, linearity, successive progression, the bag of goods that we've all embarked on needs to be broken. And then if you're very, very lucky, like those of you here, will enter the second realm, or what I like to call the second realm, away from the material and into the psychological. Here you begin to ask, well, am I co-creating this? Is there a me here? Is there something called the self? And the self begins to whisper, if you dare to go from the material to the psychological. Here you go for therapy, you realize just how screwed up you are, and it will probably take the rest of your life to undo what has been done. But you're brave and you're daring to go from the material to ask, who am I? Am I just a slew of patterns, regurgitating ancestral legacies without even realizing? Or can I possibly dare to be a me? You ask your therapist, and she smiles benevolently, because she knows it'll take a long time. But we have time, because time is eternal. Kierkegaard said that the core schism that he saw on this dimension is our impossibility of reckoning, our infinite potential with the finite of this earth, between our eternal bliss and capacity and the temporal nature of this very myopic existence, between that which is absolute liberation and our right to it, and that which we have to do as a necessity. You see, it's the split, right? I tell my parents that, the parents who come to me, your children are a spark of the particle of the universe. They are a resonance. They are a mirror to your essential divinity. And they look at me and go, yeah, but I need to get them to eat their green beans. It is this pull and push between the eternal and the temporal, between the liberation that we all desire and the form of this world. And this is where we get caught up. We get so confused. This is the duality of this earth, seeking that you master it. Seeking that you realize that it exists in every moment. See, if you don't even know what the sacred task is, then you will just live moment after moment, sure, but not understanding what is being required of you. What is being required of you is at every point, at every precipice, at every juncture, to see the split between mind and heart, between doing and being, between greed and generosity, between acquisition and altruism, between acquiring and letting go, between more and detachment, between noise and quietude, between following and stillness, between chaos and presence. Every juncture you get to make a choice in your life, but you have to know that this is your sacred choice. And as you do make the right choices, moving toward the abundance that you are, the split within you will heal, and what will emerge will be your authentic self. So after you've been in therapy for a long time and realize that you are only going to heal so much from the ravages of your parents' unconsciousness, you decide, perhaps a few lucky ones, to move on your journey. And then I believe you move on to another realm of existence, the spiritual realm. And here you begin to ask deeper questions, not just about the I and your ego and your parents and my mommy and my daddy and my grandfather and my grandmother. Therapy is all about you in a good way, but also sometimes in a deeply perverted and self-absorbed way. So technically I tell my clients, after a year is the longest, because now we're just getting enraptured in our self-absorption. So I send them off. Go find the next dimension of your truth. Don't be lingering. So all of you who have a therapist who's had you for a couple of years, time to move on. Yes? Because after a while, healing becomes grandiosity and a sinking into stagnation. The heroine must move on. Yes, you've answered the call to adventure, but now what? There have to be trials and tribulations and tests. You have to go test the new waters. So go test yourself in the new territory. Go into unknown lands. And the spiritual realm is the beginning, the embarkation of unknown territory. Because in the spiritual realm, you begin to realize that all these attachments have been a delusion. That all that you've acquired will never make you whole. You see, this happiness that you've been seeking in the spiritual realm, you begin to realize, it was so misguided. But then what should you have sought? You were told happiness. I ask every parent, what do you want for your children? They're like, success. Oh, sorry, happiness. Which is success, which is just money, Because when the child says, but I'll be so happy, Mom, on the streets of India with a bowl, aping the monks, begging for alms, I believe salvation will be found there. You're like, no, I didn't mean that kind of happiness. So parents lie, we lie so much. I want my children's happiness. No one lies more than parents, one lie after the other. And all our children, because the truth tellers that they are willing to call the emperor for his nudity and not hide behind his garb, which is not even there. The children will call you on it. That's why all of you, just for the sake of it, have a child. You'll do a miserable job, but just for the sake of your awakening, have one. That's what I did. I just had one. Why bother myself too much? I could see the insanity with one. I only needed one. Some need a few. They think it's a badge of honor. They just don't realize that's how much it took to wake them up. But okay. So have a child, because in truth, you are going to screw them up, but that's okay. Look at all of us. So one more, no problem. But perhaps you'll awaken. How about that? That's a good trade-off. You tell your child sorry when you go visit them in the institution that they are in. You're like, oops, sorry, I'll pay for your therapy. But look, mommy's awakened. I woke up. I tell my daughter, she's the price. She's the price for the prize. She's like, why me, Mom? I'm like, I don't know. You chose me, child. I didn't ask for you. You picked me for some reason. So why children? Because children, you see, their bullshit meter is pointing in the right direction. And they, at least before 2 years before the adults in their life have captured, slaughtered, and beheaded them from their heart, they can tell you. They can tell you that all of this looking, searching, seeking for happiness, all a lie. They would tell you. They would tell you. You see, if you're awake enough before you have a child, which is no parent ever, then you would know that the child is here to be your guru, to awaken you, to make you see that only living in the present without guys. Look at the child, no guys. They're completely schizophrenic, but they don't care. They don't care. They can go from the deepest belly aching laughter to belly aching, and head aching tantruming in a moment, because they're in the moment and they have no attachment to how it is they look to you. And they believe that you will love them unconditionally. See, they come thinking you're going to love them. They don't realize that we didn't have them for this. We had them because we are waiting for the moment we can post on Facebook something glorious. So waiting, and we didn't realize it's a long road before that happens. So children, because they live in the present, now begin, if you're willing to listen to children, which we're not because we're exhausted and really upset that no one told us how hard it was. So we're not paying attention. But if we were, we would see, listen, remember how it was to live free. To live without the label, without the identity, without the religion, without the grades, without the achievement, without the attachment, dependency to the other. Children know who it is they are. But we pluck them from that knowing. We take them away, we uproot them, we cut them. We parents do. And it's been done to us. It's been done to us. We're not evil. We can only do what we can in the limits of our consciousness. So the spiritual realm, you see, is when you start going back into what it was to be authentic, what you once were. Because in the spiritual realm, you begin to realize that the moment is only now. But the now cannot be in search of happiness. You cannot enter the now looking for life to give you only the condition of happiness, and then you divorce all the rest of life that gives you the rest of life. Life in nature is just a living, breathing organism, so it's asking you to partner with it, but not with the conditionality, only make me happy. So as you move into the spiritual realm, the third realm, in my little linear hierarchy, I have to succumb to form as well, you realize that it's not happiness that you needed to be looking for. It was something else. It's wholeness. Wholeness. What is wholeness? It's the W over all the holes you have, and the W is your worth. Your worth. And you realize in the spiritual dimension of existence that your worth cannot be attached or affixed to labels, identities, validations, money in your bank account, wrinkles or not on your face, the number on your weighing machine. It cannot. So wholeness now, you realize, has to be found somewhere else. This is, Joseph Campbell calls the greatest human transgression, the mythologist, the one who believed that all of us are the resonance of mythology. Just like I said that the crisis today is just another face of the same duality, so it is that Joseph Campbell talked about each one of us just simply following the mythology. We're all following the archetypes until we wake up. So his labeling of the greatest transgression was our utter apathy, our inability to awaken, and not just be sentient. Parents come to me and go, but I'm already conscious. I go, that's the first sign that you're not. Because what you are is just with 5 senses. That's all. You're sentient. You're not conscious. To be conscious means to realize how unconscious you are. So when a parent stands up and says, I am just the most unconscious person, now I'm ready to listen. So to not just be sentient, but to be awake with all understanding of what you bring to every moment. Not just living and breathing, but truly bringing your entire wholeness to the wholeness of the present moment. So then there are no conditionalities. I'll take the happiness, or I'll only love you if you love me. No, you look at every moment as one where you are asked, beckoned to grow into acceptance of the as is. Because as you accept the moment before you, you heal the split of the resistance within. Every moment you embrace with wholeness, with presence, with fulfillment, with abundance, with all the resonance of the universe, you heal the inner split. So all these messages from the universe are not coming at you. They're coming to show you a reflection of your split. So look at your split. See your resistance to look at your split. You get upset with the messenger instead of bowing at his feet. You cry when somebody insults you instead of asking, no, I'm the inner fascist. The fascist doesn't exist on the outside. The one who is insulted is not insulted because of the outer, because of the inner critic. The oppressor is never on the outside. The oppressor is only on the inside. So if you see the face of the oppressor or the tyrant on the outside. Well, except for your parents, because that's allowed. Because I was conditioned way young. You can't ask us to go all the way back and heal and forgive and let go of our parents' transgressions. That would be too much. That's not for the level of even the spiritual. That's the next level. So you see, when you begin to see everything on the outside as a mirror of the same duality, then you see the oppressor on the outside is the oppressor on the inside. The fascist on the outside is the fascist on the inside, the tyrant. The bad relationship on the outside is the bad relationship on the inside. There is no outer, really. There is nobody on the outside. It's all happening in the conditioned reality of your inner mind. So liberation now in the spiritual realm becomes about moving away from the attachment to all that has been known. The wisest people are those who say they know nothing, because they realize all that they were told they know was a lie. And then if you're really brave, but this is really the people we won't meet, those brave souls, they move on to another realm, the transcendental realm, which I've just called transcendental. But it's a realm that exists beyond the notion of even the soul. What do I mean by that? All this time I've been telling you, beckon the soul, call up the soul, find your soul. And now I say, let it go? Well, that's the eternal message of the spiritual awakened being and mind, is when you realize that ultimately, even the soul that you call your own doesn't exist. That now you've reached the point of nirvana, ultimate liberation. Yes, you needed the soul to awaken itself and to awaken bliss in you till this dimension. But once you reach the ultimate wisdom, you realize the self and the soul that you've been calling actually never even needed to be called, because you are one at all times with that what is. Do you understand? So you needed it along the other dimensions to get you to this dimension. To now you realize that I am one with all that is. I didn't even have to search for the soul. I just had to be who I already was. I didn't have to look for a thing. You can all go home now. Because there's nothing to look for. There's nothing you're going to find here. My garbled words are only making sense if you are already ready to receive. There's nothing I can give you. Nothing I can say to you or anyone here that can be epiphanic enough to wake you up unless your vibration is ready to receive. So no one is standing here on stage. You are. Your next version is standing here, and you're looking at them, and you're listening to them, and maybe you'll follow them. So judge not the one on the stage, yes? Oh, well, I absolve all your judgment anyway. So this is the realm when you realize that you were already one. There is nothing to learn. It's all just an unfolding. The greatest fight you will fight is to fight for this truth. To live at the level of soul where you realize there is no need to find soul. You are soul. To live at the level of interconnectedness where you don't even need to find interconnectedness because you are oneness. There is nothing to look for. All of the searching, seeking, questing you're doing because you're severed. You think it's outside. So all practices that you do need to only take you back to heal that split. If they're not taking you back to heal the split, they're not doing the work. If you're every day blaming somebody on the outside, however justified, you're not doing the work. If you really want to do the work, all eyes need to go inward. All fingers need to point to the split between your truth and the truth of the conditioned reality, which by nature is deeply delusional. So it's your choice to leave the institutions behind, to integrate the inner split, to stop looking at your life as things happening to you from the outside, but simply a journey within. The greatest fight you will fight is this journey to stay authentic. You have to be daring. You have to be committed. You have to marry your truth every day because there will be a price. People will call you betrayers. People will call you liars. People will call you unfaithful because you will be. You would have betrayed their confidence. Yes, and you should, because it is the confidence of the unconscious that wants you to stay in the institution that we call one religion or another religion. You see, any asking of you that separates you from oneness is a delusion. Anything that gives you a name, even if you say, I am Indian, I am Estonian, I am American, is a delusion. You can fall for it and colloquially identify yourself, but no, don't use it for separation, which is what it's used for. It's a lie. And every time you succumb to that label and you believe that you are that, and forgetting that you are the soul that needs no soul to remind you that it is one, then you are part of the madness that is around us. So your greatest fight is the fight to hold on to who you truly are already, and to uncover that which obscures you from that essence. The bridge to your authenticity can only be paved by you. The riverbank across to your truth can only be traversed by you. There is no safety net. This is not the nature of the journey of the spiritual warrior. So answer your call to your adventure, to your bliss, and start now, because the journey needs to be walked fast, with urgency, with deliberation, with intention, a foot and a pace. Thank you, everyone.